making their way to the microphone. It's Daniel Cormier and Ariel Helwani.
Back in your life on this third week of April 2021. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new edition of DC and Helwani, your favorite Monday show. Of course, that's DC, Daniel Cormier. I'm Helwani, Ariel Helwani. DC clearly not in the same locale as he usually is, but it's a familiar locale. Dare I say Lafayette, Louisiana?
Yes, the beautiful city of Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm home. I've got a bit of an event to go to this week before I head to Jacksonville. Nothing.
What's
Small
that?
little soiree.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Small little soiree in the capital of the great state of Louisiana. It's an event reserved for kings. You know, and I will be in this event on tomorrow evening. Would you care to share what that event is?
No, I mean, I feel like you're halfway there. You might as well close the deal. Let us know. Is it the Hall of Fame that you once told us about? Yes. Okay.
Yes. I am getting inducted into the Louisiana High School Sports Hall of Fame. You know, kings last forever. You know, and I will be inducted there tomorrow with Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Marcus Pierce, Swagoo, Ed Reed. The great Raging Cajun quarterback, Jake Delhomme, Super Bowl quarterback. So, what may be the greatest sports class in Louisiana history, I, Daniel Cormier, Dustin, hear me as I say this, my friend, I, Daniel Cormier, the king of Lafayette, Louisiana, is going into the Hall of Fame. So, hey, everybody, bow your head and pay homage to the man. You know what I'm saying, Ariel? So, yes, I will go and I will sit amongst the kings of the great state of Louisiana forever after tomorrow night.
I still don't understand.
Dustin, I love you. Dustin, I love you, my friend. But I think now, you know, we all
still don't understand. And by the way, you failed to mention the most notable
Willis Reed.
Of course, the captain,
number 19. How's
Willis
Reed the captain? How's the captain just going in today? I don't understand.
Well, I was just about to say that. Willis Reed was in high school in like 1950. What are we talking about here?
How the captain's
Did they just start this Hall of Fame? I still don't get it. Are all those people going to be there, by the way? Or is this okay?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, everybody's
what a gathering.
There.
What a gathering.
It's a massive. It is the highest honor you can get in our great state.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Well deserved. I'm a little jealous that you'll be among those kings. By the way, what's going on over there in Lafayette? Isn't that like something that you have for Christmas in back of you? Like that seems very festive.
My sister put no, she just loves the United States of America.
Oh, okay.
Like,
all right.
She loves the USA, bro. I mean, it's all red, white, and blue. Hey, bro, don't talk about Felicia Cormier. She's your biggest fan.
I love Felicia.
Biggest fan. If you lose her, you have nobody. If you lose Felicia, you have nobody. So you better be careful with her, like, mantle decorations, because she puts a lot of effort into it.
Well, it looks lovely. Congratulations to you on the induction. You may have heard Matcha. Hey, happy birthday to Matcha, my dog. Three years old today. I mean,
this is crazy because I remember a time whenever you were completely against getting Matcha.
I know.
Like, you did not want Matcha, and now you're like, I'm walking my dog. I'm like, bro, wait, what happened?
No. I'm the most in love with her. Like, I will tell us, you know, the family, we need to get home just so I can see her and feel bad for her.
This was never the case. This wasn't always the case, though.
I fought this. Like, this was like almost the end of my marriage.
Yes,
this dog.
You fought this tooth and nail. You did not want this.
And now look at me.
My great friend, Mrs. Helwani.
Yes.
Mrs. Helwani got Jacqueline. Jacqueline, she won the argument and looked and made you happy again. Happy birthday, Matcha.
You know, it also makes me happy. National Hanging Out Day. You know, a happy National Hanging Out Day to you and yours. Here we are hanging out. You know, very fitting that you're wearing that hat, DC. It's amazing how the stars align on this program. You are wearing a Gilroy wrestling hat. And guess what today is? Guess what? What is Gilroy? What is Gilroy?
Capital of the world.
Today is National Garlic Day. How about that?
Let's go.
And you're not even there.
Get out of here.
It is National Amaretto Day, National North Dakota Day. I wish we were doing this on April 20th. National Lookalike Day. A lot of people say we look alike. Lima Bean Respect Day. But most importantly, you know what, DC? I failed to mention this last week, and I do want to mention it on today's program. A Ramadan Mubarak, I believe, to all our friends all across the world. I failed
all
to
of
mention
our friends. Yes.
Yes.
All my brothers, all my Dagestani brothers are celebrating right now. So yes, very, very big celebration in their religion. So happy Ramadan.
And also happy bicycle day. You know, I don't know how to ride a bike. I'm 38 years old. I have never rode a bike in my life.
Lying.
I cannot ride
you
a
don't
bike.
Ride a bicycle?
I do not know. I have tried throughout my entire life. Today's bicycle day. And one of the big reasons why I'm such a big fan of Peloton, all of a sudden I love my Peloton, because I finally can sort of understand why people enjoy riding bikes. I can't do it. My 8-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 4-year-old can ride a bike.
So who teaches them?
Mrs. Helwani, the aforementioned.
So now Jacqueline's just doing everything. What are you
today's bicycle day? What hosting this program?
Bicycle.
I can't ride a bicycle. I'm sorry.
Come on, Ariel.
38, turning 39 in July,
Ariel,
and I still cannot ride a bicycle. I wish I could, but alas,
I'll teach you how to ride a bike, man.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'll teach you.
Sell that to ESPN Plus.
Because I start pushing you, like when you get ready to go, I'm gonna just push your ass down.
All right. Speaking of pushing, I don't know if that's a good transition or not, but let's get into this past weekend, because there's a lot to get to, my friend. Of course, UFC 261. You will be there in Jacksonville. You're a little closer than you usually are. You know, you're going from Northern California to Lafayette to Florida, so it all makes sense. But let's give last weekend its due, and let's start with Bobby Knuckles, the former UFC middleweight champion. You know, around 5 or 6 weeks ago, we had a situation where it looked like there was this tournament brewing, right? And we had Derek Brunson with the big win over Kevin Holland. We had Marvin Vettori versus Darren Till. Unfortunately, Darren Till breaks his collarbone, so he's out. In walks in Kevin Holland again. Marvin Vettori wins. And then at the very end, we were going to have Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. Costa's sick, and we get the fight we were supposed to get 2 years ago, and that's Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. And in the end, it was the last fight of that little tournament that sealed the deal, because there is no denying, in my opinion, and I want to get your take, after all of that, that Robert Whittaker is the number one contender at 185. You could have made a case after the win over Jared Cannonier that he was the number one contender, but we need to get Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker too. This is no debate, right? This is a case closed. This is 100% fact. Whittaker Adesanya too. After the win on Saturday, 5 rounds to none, he pitched a shutout. It has to be this, right?
It's over. It's over. I mean, it should have been a wrap after Cannonier, like you said, but it's completely over now. There's no question who deserves the title shot. And Marvin Vettori understood that after watching the fight. Because when he did that interview and said, hey, a lot of people talk like he don't want the fight. Marvin Vettori is trying to call back to the summer, right? We made a whole bunch. Remember in the summer, we made a lot about when Rob kept saying, title fight comes, whatever. And then after the fight, Rob was like, wait, I do want a title fight. We had kind of taken what he said out of context, right? Marvin tried to call back to that. He tried to reintroduce that into the story, and that's not the case. Whittaker's like, no, I get what you're doing, but I want my title fight. And after that performance, after how he has looked since losing the title, he's literally 1B. He literally shows that if Adesanya is 1A, he is 1B, and then maybe he can beat him in a rematch, because he has actually gotten better. And when you look at these fights and you watch a guy get beat and the way Rob got beat, you wonder what he's changed. He's changed a lot, from his wrestling transitions to his striking looks as good as it always has. His cardio looks fantastic. I mean, we always have known that he's very, very good. But to me, he seems like a better version of Robert Whittaker, even when he was the champion defending the belt against guys over and over again. So yes, it's time for a rematch. Izzy, it's time to give this man what he has earned. He did not sit on the sideline like a lot of us do after we lost our belts. I sat until Stipe fought me again. Stipe sat until I fought him again. Many people sit and wait for another title fight. Robert Whittaker has answered the call. He didn't sit and wait. He went out and proved to you that he is that guy. So it's time to pay him up, man. It's time to pay up. Adesanya versus Whittaker 2 is the fight that needs to happen. And it needs to happen next.
Loved what you said on the back end there. Agree with everything that you said. But it's so funny because here we have this weekend a situation where Masvidal sat, where Colby's trying to sit after just one fight.
It's crazy, right? The people we talked about before were champions that lost and sat.
Yeah.
Masvidal sat as the challenger and still got a rematch. This dude
was the champ.
Yes, he went and earned it again. He didn't say, well, I've defended the belt so many times, I deserve this. He went and earned it again. And it's time to pay up, man. You got to give that man his fight.
So he deserves credit, in my opinion, for three things. Number one, that for being active, for the wins, Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum, like the best of the best at 185. And yes, he didn't get any finishes there, but like he was very dominant and looked tremendous in every one of those fights. And, he also deserves credit, in my opinion. He was a little bit snake bitten while champion, right? All kinds of bad luck, right? Like collapsed bow, all that stuff. In the midst of this pandemic, DC, since July, this guy has now fought 3 times. Since July, that's like a 9-month stretch. This guy's fought 3 times. That's unheard of in this day and age for a top contender, right? He deserves credit for that. He deserves credit for not complaining. And you know what else he deserves credit for, DC? This is a guy who was open about mental health issues. This is a guy who was open about feeling burnt out, about feeling depressed. He seems to be in a great spot. I mean, like, he is unflappable when it comes to the trash talk. He does it with a smile. He is so likable. Like, Robert Whittaker is really a testament to the sport. He is the best the sport has to offer in so many, like a tremendous role model, a family man. How do you not root for this guy? And so I'm happy that he's getting another crack at Izzy to right that wrong. And by the way, I'm just wondering, like, based off the last 3 fights, based off the fact that he appears to be in a great spot mentally, happy, family in order, life in order, personal life in order, is there anything that makes you feel like this second fight goes any different? Because let's be honest, it was very one-sided the first time around, right?
Well, it was a one-sided fight the first time, but you got to remember all these factors that play into what happened the first time. He had been defending that belt and just having to show blood and guts and a warrior spirit through those Romero fights.
10 rounds with Romero.
With Romero, right? Who Luke Rockhold said feels like he's made of steel. He had fought, who else did he fight in that title when he was the champion? He fought Romero twice. He fought
well, he was undefeated at 185 pounds, but so like one of the fights at middleweight wasn't an official,
it was an interim title fight, right?
Well, there was an interim title fight, but there was also a situation where Yoel Romero didn't make weight.
And it was him for the belt, Romero not for the belt. Yes.
Yeah. And that was it. As far as title fights, that was it.
Just 2?
Yes. And then he fought Izzy.
It felt like he had the belt forever.
Yeah, at 185, he fought Clint Hester, Brad Tavares, Uriah Hall, Rafael Natal, Derek Brunson, Jacare. None of those were title fights. Then he gets the interim title fight against Yoel. Then he gets the other supposed title fight, but it actually wasn't an official title fight against Romero. And that was it. He didn't get, and then he lost to Izzy. But remember, he was supposed to fight Gastelum at the pullout. There was the stuff with Bisping that didn't come to fruition. But yeah, there was only 2.
It felt like he had the belt forever. But with those fights with Romero, he went through the meat grinder to win those matches. He got hurt bad in that one fight where he was about to get finished and somehow won the 5th round. And you alluded to his mental issues, right? Where he was burnt out and he felt like he just didn't want to do it anymore. The stresses of being the champion, because when you're the champion, everything is questioned, right? When Robert Whittaker is having to pull out of a fight at the last minute, people are going, oh, this, and the other. When reality is he was struggling physically, probably was struggling up top mentally. When he had to pull out of that fight, all the questions that he had to hear probably played a part in some of the mental hurdles that he had to overcome. Then you got this young guy just blasting up through the rankings in Israel Adesanya. So they're going in totally different directions the last time. This time, Izzy's the one coming off of a loss.
Yes.
He got stopped in his quest to become a double champion. He is now not undefeated anymore. Not the guy that's just riding this wave all the way up to the top. And now Whittaker, it's this now, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's the opposite. So I think all those things factor into what this fight can look like whenever they're matched up again. And also, Robert Whittaker looks like he's gotten better. And Jan Blachowicz has shown, right? Jan Blachowicz has shown a way in which you can fight Israel Adesanya and beat him. So, I mean, I think Whittaker can now take fractions of what Jan did and try to apply it to a fight with Adesanya, because guess what? In the first fight, I felt like that was a fly. Okay. I felt like I don't want to Bruce Buffer that. Remember Bruce Buffer was all
I thought you were doing my dunk.
No. The first fight, I thought Whittaker's big mistake was he watched the Gastelum fight. And he saw all the success Gastelum had with rushing Israel Adesanya and just pressuring him. And I thought he tried to fight in that same way. But guess what? With a guy like Izzy, you get to do that once. You don't get to replicate that fight after fight. So he just picked him apart. It was all counters, right? Izzy got him with that left hook counter to finish him. Izzy got him with a left hook counter in the first round to drop him at the end of the round. So he was prepared for Robert to fight like Kelvin Gastelum did. Now Robert can try and fight a little bit like Jan, but he's got a mix between the two because he's not as big as Blachowicz is.
I wonder if they consider holding this in Australia and or New Zealand. Remember the first time they fought 55 or so thousand people. We all know that they're dealing with the pandemic a little differently than we are, and they're in a much better spot. I mean, I see footage of like rugby matches and soccer / football, and there's like 30,000 people there with no mask. It's pretty incredible. So I wonder, it would be a challenge for the UFC, an American-based company, to go over there. I get that, but man, there's a lot of money to be made, and it would be kind of a shame to have those guys fighting in America, considering how big of a deal it would be in Oceania. And for Marvin Vettori, like, look, I would say to him, don't feel so bad. You are in the discussion. You wanted to be in the discussion. You're in the discussion. And I loved your idea. Well, I was going to say, I love that idea. I love that idea of
you
those
guys
two
get
guys.
one. Whoever wins gets the title fight. Vettori versus Brunson. Because, bro, you could be the biggest Marvin Vettori fan, and you have to realize that Robert Whittaker deserves a title fight. Because if I had to choose the Robert Whittaker that fought Saturday, Marvin would struggle with him. He just looks so good. I mean, the guy's just improving every time.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see that fight. I saw a little back and forth between Izzy and Whittaker. Actually, Whittaker responded to it because he was asked, but Izzy was tweeting. So he was clearly watching. He admitted that Whittaker made him smile and laugh with his response to his initial tweet saying, "Good job, my son." So this is good. We have clarity at 185. It's always great when a contender emerges, and you've got a bit of a queue forming as well. Hopefully we get Costa back and Darren Till at some point as well. And I'm just really happy for Whittaker. The guy is just, I mean, who doesn't like it's always weird to see Izzy talk smack about him. And I know there's like some weird friction, but it's like, he's so likable. And I don't know if Izzy's trying to, convince himself. It's almost like Woodley and Wonder Boy back in the day, right? Yeah. Like everyone was so,
confused.
Yeah. I was like, where's this coming from? But, you do what you have to do.
Maybe it's like Izzy, you see something in him that no one else does.
Right.
It's like, but ultimately, I believe that it's Izzy as a competitor trying to find something to latch on to motivate himself a little further. Mm-hmm. I know they talk about as a champion, you don't need motivation. You do. If you love a guy, it's hard to get up and go, I want him. Everybody loves a guy. Well, find something that you don't like about him. It helps to do what you got to do.
So it was a bit of a slow go on Saturday, a lot of decisions. Shout out to the legend, Mr. House Taste myself, House Taste my Mr. Andre Arlovsky for continuing to win.
This dude, Andre Arlovsky, is ageless. He's just out there throwing the same combination he's been throwing for 20 years too. Like, he out there throwing the same combination, and dude's still getting hit by it. Like, come on, fellas, watch some footage. I mean, there are 35 fights of Andre Arlovsky fighting. And dare I say,
yes,
Andre Arlovsky is doing the same thing he did back then. He has not changed much. He just is so good at what he does that he's landing on these dudes that are in their 20s, early 30s.
That was his 53rd pro fight.
Throwing that same combination, too. Throwing that same combination. I'm like, come on.
Shout out to Tracy Cortez, Luis Pena with a big win as well. Jessica Pena returning after 4 years. Gerald Mershart, Austin Hubbard.
She got powerbomb.
It was Kevin Nash.
That was crazy. But it's like she was looking up at the girl like, what just happened? That's not supposed to happen in
I
a
know.
fight. You just threw her over.
It was Kevin Nash style. But we have to talk before we move on to other things. We have to talk about a fight that didn't happen on Friday at the weigh-ins. Drakkar Klose and Jeremy Stephens were getting set to face off. They were supposed to fight in the co-main event on Saturday. They get pretty close. Now, Drakkar is wearing a mask. I've asked people if he said anything to Jeremy. They all said no, but they did get very close. And we know that Jeremy is a fiery fellow, to put it mildly. They get very close. Jeremy shoves him quite hard. Drakkar goes out of the frame, was actually wearing slides, gets like pushed out of the slides. And everyone's like, oh, wow, look at this intense face-off / push. Okay, great. Can't wait for the fight. Come to find out, start of the broadcast, they announce that the fight is off, that Drakkar Klose has suffered an injury. This seemed a little bit strange to me. You know, we've heard about COVID issues at the last minute, but an injury, like what kind of injury? Was he training in the hotel room or something? Reach out to his team. His team tells me that he suffered a sprain of the cervical neck, and then, which is essentially whiplash and a concussion. Now he starts to get a ton of heat for this. They show me the actual diagnosis. They send it to me, the actual diagnosis. His team sends it to me, a cervical sprain of the neck and a concussion based off of the push, was throwing up Saturday morning, all this stuff. And I get it. I mean, you tell me, you're dehydrated, you're unsuspecting, you're standing face to face, you get pushed like that, that can mess you up, right? How do you feel about this whole situation? And do you think, as of right now, it's unresolved, but do you think there should be a punishment for pushing your opponent like this at the weigh-ins before a fight?
Ooh, that's a lot to digest there.
Yeah.
Right. First things first. I think the great champion Aljamain Sterling said it best. People don't understand the state in which you are after weigh-in. You're dehydrated. Your brain is in a fog. You can't really like see and respond in the way that you normally respond. When you cut all that weight, as you drink the fluids to recover, the fluids to rehydrate, your brain starts to get more clarity to it. And I do believe that when he got pushed in that way, it can jar you in a way that normally wouldn't happen. I've seen guys on wrestling matches, whenever you weigh in an hour before the match, where they just don't seem like themselves because they've cut so much weight. I believe him. I believe Drakkar Klose was hurt in that exchange. Sucks that it happened because it was set to be a really fun fight. But I don't believe people should be jumping down this kid's throat because he wasn't able to fight. I believe he made a smart decision because, you know, that's why when there's car accidents, people kind of go, they whip like that and the neck's messed up, the brain's messed up. You can't, and he got pushed hard, man. You saw his whole body kind of go back as he got pushed. So I believe the kid. But I know I don't want to see Jeremy Stephens fine because it's fighting and it's an intense situation. You start putting fines on stuff like that. I mean, you don't want these guys like, you don't want them like Cage, right? Like trying to keep themselves under control. Like no matter what you feel about a guy, you know, I've been in situations where I've had to deal with stuff like that before. We've shoved each other and everything. So,
but by the way, that was 2 months before you were supposed to fight. I know that fight didn't happen in September, you and Jones and stuff, but we're talking about the day before, like 24 hours before, and you're in that state that you're speaking of.
Oh, for sure. I still don't want
nothing, no punishment whatsoever.
I mean, you just get a little talking to, man, because reality is when guys are in each other's face and they're jawing and maybe there is a shove, that's when you get excited as a fan. So we don't want to start, you know, I don't know, man. It's hard because I don't want to start to like just make the sport like two, you know, we're pit bulls, right? We're pit bulls. Two pit bulls get next to each other. You want to get after that other pit bull. I don't want you being held up by your chain as you get walked out to the weigh-ins, right? I don't want that for my sport. I don't want that for mixed martial arts. I want guys in there like ready at each other.
Okay, so can I just add this? I agree with everything you said to a degree. Then the notion that Drakkar Klose went through an entire training camp, went through a weight cut, and then decided I'm not going to fight is absolutely absurd. Like people are getting on this this young man for that is absolutely absurd. By the way, as of right this moment, he doesn't know, I'm told from his team, he doesn't know if he's getting his win or even his show, which I think is unfair. He should at least get the show. I think he should get the win as well.
He made the weight. So you should get his show money, right?
And it was not his fault. He just,
if you make the weight, you usually get, you showed up.
A lot of fighters were weighing in on this, pardon the pun, on Saturday. Cub Swanson, one of them, he responded to my thread and said that, I asked him what he thought the penalty should be. He said a suspension after the fight, similar to PED punishment. Apparently you think that's too harsh. If you can't make the walk, there has to be some kind of repercussion. Let me ask you this, because you were in the same situation. Be honest now, mentally, because it was Sean Shelby there. It wasn't Dana White, like usual. Do guys feel a little more comfortable doing stuff like that when the boss isn't there? In your situation, it feels historically that guys act up when the boss isn't there. And,
I think a lot of guys are a little bit more cautious, but with certain guys, it don't matter. Right? Like, because we'll just ask him, like, I'm just like, let me get in his face. Like, let me get in his, because he's always trying to like this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me get in his face. But then when he got away from me and Jones that first time, he had to run his ass back. Sorry. He had to run back onto the stage because we got to join each other again. We probably would have started fighting. So
which first time?
At the press conference when me and Jones were standing there before the first fight, Dana, for some reason, like walked out.
That wasn't Dana. That was Dave Schaller.
No, at that press conference, me and Jones got in a fight. But when Dana squared us off at the press conference the week of the fight, he walked off stage. And then Jones and I went right back face to face, and he had to run back in there. We'd probably started fighting again. So, even like, I think that, yes, at a point, people are a little bit more better behaved, but I don't think thoroughly it matters when it's that bad blood. If you think that Khabib and Conor wouldn't have fought because Dana was up there, you're crazy. Or Nate Diaz and those guys, they would have fought. They would have went at each other, if they weren't just holding them back.
Yeah, that's just a theory. Obviously, the bigger issue is the guy got hurt before a fight. I hope he feels better. That's scary stuff. A concussion based off a push. I just hate to see people questioning him and him feeling like he has to send, or his team has to send, the actual diagnosis from the hospital. To me, is crazy, and I hope he gets paid really at the very least. The show.
These fighters they all have to do that, right? They're all defending their honor.
It's crazy.
The people that don't even really they won't step in there and do what these guys do. It's crazy.
All right. Well, I hope he gets better soon. And look, I'm not advocating for Jeremy Stephens to get cut or anything like that. I was just curious from a fighter perspective. Did you agree with the Cub Swanson and others, Iman Zahabi as well, who were saying that there should be some repercussion?
That's a little bit much.
Okay.
Doesn't need to be that much.
All right. In a matter of seconds, we are going to talk about UFC 261, which of course is the next pay-per-view. It happens this Saturday in Jacksonville. Capacity crowd back in Jacksonville a year after that string of events, which came after the pause due to the pandemic. But first, let's tell you all about our good friends over at ZipRecruiter. As you know, MLB fans, baseball is back, and you are allowed to attend games this season where you sit in pods with your group. How exciting is this? Sporting arenas aren't the only places that you are slowly returning to normal to. Businesses everywhere are making the gradual shift towards normalcy, which means more hiring. That's where ZipRecruiter comes in. ZipRecruiter's matching technology finds people with the right experience for your job and invites them to apply. No wonder 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free only at ZipRecruiter.com/MMA. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/MMA. We should have addressed the elephant in the room at the very top. But since we're about to talk about 261, number one, yes, I am wearing nail polish. This is courtesy of my daughter, Claire, who usually gives me the kind that just like washes off after one time. This one is a more heavy duty kind. And so I'm still rocking it. And guess what? Proud to be rocking.
You like it.
I like it. It's a little annoying because I bite my nails. And it's like it's not exactly the best job, if I'm being honest.
Sometimes, man, you gotta just let your kids do whatever they want to. Your daughters, hey, they're your babies. Claire is a fantastic makeup gal and a fantastic nail doer of her own. and a great TV personality. I mean, Claire is just next level.
Mm-hmm.
So when she says, I want to paint your nails, Dad, it adds to it. And you're on SportsCenter yesterday. And I loved it. I love whatever. Stan Verrett's like looking at your hands. Like
Michael Leaves.
Sorry, Michael's looking at your hands, passing purple. And he's like, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
You have to tell him that Claire got you.
Now, the other elephant that we must address is what's going on with the voice. I mean, I'm a little nervous here. We're 5 days out and we're struggling. I mean, we're calling a pay-per-view, 3 title fights. Jorge Masvidal. What is going on here, DC?
Okay, so last week I went to Wisconsin. I went to South Dakota for a wrestling tournament with my team. And we had 11, we had 10 and a half matches in 2 days. So a lot of yelling was involved. And so
wow. Are we worried?
Well, it's my voice from I'm not trained to coach anymore. So we had 8 match 6. We went 6-1 on the first day. We got third. And then on the second day, we won 4 matches. We lost 1, and then we were wrestling another match, and it was some iffy refereeing, if I should say.
Okay.
And a situation happened where some bad calls were made. I tried to ask for help in terms of the officiating. They tried. More bad calls were made. I got frustrated. I took my team and I left in the middle of the match. So
what do you mean?
I don't want to be a sore loser.
What do you mean?
Bro, it was bad. It was bad.
You walked out in protest?
It was bad. The referees didn't know what they were doing. So I went to my guy. One of my kids is wrestling. Very important match for the kid. And I don't even know what happened for the score to change at the end of the match. And the dude just like won't listen to me. I got one dude is supposed to be watching to help. There's 2 officials. The second official is supposed to be watching to help in case I want to question the call. He's on his dang cell phone. So when I go to question, they don't want to learn it, hear anything, right? So my kid Jaden Gomez is wrestling. They kind of got him. Henry's about to walk on the mat. This kid, Henry Porter, and I told after Jaden's match, I said to all the kids, I go, get your stuff, we're leaving. They said, what, coach? Like, what? I said, get your stuff, we're leaving. We're not anybody's punching bag. We're not traveling across the country for these guys and the officials not to know what they're doing. And the guy that runs the tournament, beautiful man. I love the guy, showed me so much respect. The guys just didn't understand the style of wrestling and they just messed up. So I took my team and I left.
That's John Thompson-esque right there.
John Thompson, dog.
That is John Thompson-esque.
I took my team and I left, dog. I will not accept my team. Gilroy High School is not the punching bag of the country. We are not any less than anybody. Whenever we go somewhere, we want to be treated fairly. So yeah, old coach grabbed his stuff and left, dog. The kid, everybody, hey, I'm glad Duran wasn't there because he might be flipping everybody off as we left the building. Like
I thought you were gonna say Duran would be the one dissenter and tell you all to stay. He's just a little,
you know, he did. He's done that before. Duran has done that before. Duran has done that before. Whenever I've been mad about the officiating, and he's like, DC, we gotta let the kids compete. I promise.
I do.
So like he would be the one pressing me to do the bad behavior, but it's usually me whenever the officiating's too bad. I get pissed off.
And that, by the way, subconsciously, that's why I didn't mention that today is National North Dakota Day. I didn't want to rub salt, even though I didn't know that story. I didn't want to.
How is it South Dakota? But for the record, the guy that runs that tournament, Terry Pack, beautiful man. And he does a great job.
Controversy. I had no idea. Okay.
It was crazy, bro. The kids were all like, wait, what? They couldn't believe what was happening.
I hope the situation gets rectified to get better officials. And for our purposes, I hope your voice gets better. But let's keep damaging that voice and continue to talk.
Yes, I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent there.
Yeah, listen, the tangents are what I live for. I love the tangents. All right, 261, Usman Masvidal 2, welterweight title. Zhang Weili returning 13 and a half months after her fight of the year against Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Rose Namajunas. Fantastic fight at 15 pounds. Valentina Shevchenko against the former champ Jessica Andrade for the 125-pound title. Oh, by the way, Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall 2, fight that happened 10 years ago on the regional scene. Oh, by the way, Jimmy Crute, rising star against Anthony Smith. I mean, something for everyone. Fantastic card. But let's start with the main event. We saw this fight in July. Masvidal took it on a week's notice. Usman essentially took it on a week's notice, although Usman was preparing for Gilbert Burns on that date. Masvidal cuts a ton of weight. It was never really close, 5 rounds to none. This time around, he gets it a month and a half out. So not your typical normal training camp, but long enough.
But long enough. Let's not.
Long enough. Yes, I'm just saying.
I really don't even want to introduce that into the
Listen, I'm just telling the facts.
I don't want to introduce that. I know I'm not saying that you're a Kamaru Usman hater.
No.
I don't want to introduce this. Well, it was only 6 weeks.
I'm just saying.
I know. I don't want to introduce this into the story.
Okay.
Because
All I'm asking.
I feel like the reason we're here today is because of the short notice of the fight.
Yes.
That's why we're even here today, is because the fight was taken on short notice. So let's not introduce short notice into the fight again when there's been a 6-week training camp.
You are right. It's an easy fight to sell because the last one happened on 7 days. So you say, all right, full training camp. Okay. Calm down. I'm just putting out the facts. Them's the facts. Facts, as Drake would say. Do you feel like there is any scenario in which this fight ends up differently than the first one? And if so, what does Masvidal have to do, especially early on, to change the script, if you will?
Listen, Jorge Masvidal can defend takedowns. Usman will never be able to just take him down as easily as he does some other guys. If you're Team Masvidal, what I hope you've worked on is managing the clinch better, because that's where he struggled. He didn't get taken down a whole bunch of times last time. He just could not get Usman off of him. And Usman's big, he's physical, he has a real understanding of the clinch. So I believe that he should have gotten with Steve Mako, worked with his coaches to try to improve in that area of wrestling. A lot of people think wrestling is just taking him down, him getting up. It's not just that. Wrestling involved in the clinch, wrestling is involved in the front headlock positions when you're about to take the back. There are so many different areas that I know that Steve understands, and they can get him the help that he needs. I believe that he'll be better, but I do believe that Usman will be a lot better. Usman took the fight on short notice. Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal are completely different fighters, right? With Gilbert Burns, you think you're going to be taking a grappler. You're going to be fighting a grappler. So Usman had to probably prepare a lot wrestling. But instead, he got a striker, and a great striker at that, in Masvidal. So him and Trevor Whitman having the time to prepare will allow for him to be even better. I think that we're going to see a much better fight between these two. Is George good enough to close the gap? I don't know. It's a tall hill to climb, man. Usman is as good as they come. And Masvidal is going to have to fight the absolute perfect fight in order to beat him. But if anybody has that ability, it's Jorge Masvidal.
Worth noting that I spoke to Masvidal's team. They told me on Saturday he was about 7 or 8 pounds, over the limit. Easy, right? I mean, like 178, 177 and a half. I don't remember the exact number. And why is that worth noting? Because obviously the weight cut the first time around was a massive ordeal, 30 or so pounds. So just aside, going back to your previous point about like 6 weeks now, they are not using any excuses. They have never said to me, we wish we had more time. They're actually very, very confident. Not everyone's always confident, but I was told that they are extremely confident going into this. Go ahead.
One quick point on that.
Yeah.
Now, Masvidal's smaller today, right? So the weight cut will be easier.
Mm-hmm.
But when you diet down to a certain weight, when you train at a certain weight, your body will only allow you to get back to that weight, right? Because it's going to take a couple weeks for you to push through the barrier. So if you're waking up every morning 178, 180, on fight night, you're going to be 178, 180. So when Jorge Masvidal cut 30 pounds in 7 days, his body wasn't used to being that light. So whatever he ate, whatever he drank, he put it back in. So in theory, he was bigger in that first fight than he will be in this fight. Size would seem to be an advantage in the clinch. So in the position that he struggled the most, he's going to be smaller in that position against Kamaru Usman. So now his technique in that position needs to be even better. So if he was 170 on weigh-in day in Abu Dhabi and he had cut all that weight, he might have been 190 pounds going into the octagon. If he's training now, waking up at 180, he'll weigh 180, 182. He'll be lighter going into the fight this time. So his technique is going to have to be even better because trust me, Usman's going back to that clinch because why wouldn't he when he had so much success in it on the first time?
Here's what I wonder from a mental standpoint. I think he knew, hey, throw caution to the wind, 7 days. This is all gravy. I shouldn't even be here. I think this time he knows 18 years in the game. He has talked openly about how much this title means to him. I think in the back of his mind, even though he doesn't want to necessarily admit it, this is his last chance. As long as Kamaru Usman is champion, he won't get a third crack at him, especially if it's not a close fight. 18 years in the game, you don't get many more chances after this. I think he has a sense of urgency. I would like to think that will mean we'll get the best version of him. The big question is the best version of Jorge Masvidal good enough to beat the best version of Kamaru Usman?
You know what's crazy about Masvidal, and I think that they should have a lot of credit be given to him and his team. They've done a fantastic job of putting this man in positions to make a ton of money, for his popularity to skyrise, and to manage and keep his fights by sitting and waiting and not going and fighting Colby Covington, who, in my opinion, is the second best welterweight in the world to Kamaru Usman. You don't run the risk of not winning that fight and then losing the second Usman fight. So they've managed to keep those fights, right? Because even if he is to lose this weekend to Usman, he can always fight Colby as the former friends type of storyline. It doesn't change. So I think that they've done a great job of making sure that he has all of his fights in place. Because if he wins this weekend, him and Colby for the belt is even bigger, right? So a big fight will stay big or get bigger regardless of the outcome this weekend. Masvidal and those guys have done a great job of doing all that. But I'm telling you, man, Kamaru Usman is so good. And he is going to be better this time than he was last time because he can prepare specifically with Trevor for Jorge Masvidal. So in those areas where it looked like he would kind of duck his head to go clinch Masvidal because Masvidal was throwing so much heat at him, this time he'll be much more patient in the face of that because he has seen it once and he's prepared for that specific approach of Jorge. I can't wait for this fight. This fight is going to be fantastic. And man, somebody's going to be a massive star after next weekend. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. When you fight a guy like Jorge Masvidal, if Usman can fight in the way that he did Gilbert Burns, his star will explode. But if Masvidal gets that belt, for as popular as he is right now, I mean, there will be no denying how much of a massive celebrity he is. He's got it all, man. He's got the look. He's got the personality. It's a big spot for both of these guys.
Before they decided to hold this event in Jacksonville, when it was going to be in Las Vegas, this was supposed to be a 2 title fight card. And then they added Masvidal Usman, obviously big fight, helps sell tickets. And I got to say, I love this card with those 2 title fights. The original plan was Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas and Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. I adore both those fights. I can't wait to see both those fights. I didn't need the cherry on top, and we got the cherry on top. Great. So now everyone's happy. Let me ask you, those 2 women's title fights, which one interests you more? Because I don't think there's a right answer here. Finally, we're getting Valentina Shevchenko in what we believe is a legitimate competitive fight at 125 against former 115 champion Jessica Andrade, who looked great moving up. And we're getting Zhang and Rose, who seem to be very closely matched. There's some bad blood there. I mean, I don't know what the answer is here. What's your answer?
Mine is Zhang Weili and Rose Namajunas. I love Valentina. I think she is fantastic. I think she is the second best female fighter in the world behind Amanda Nunes. But Zhang Weili, man, she's just a cool chick. Like, she's cool, right? Like, people like Zhang Weili. People think that, and she's tough. She's durable. She showed so much heart in beating Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's so skilled, and she kind of has that it to her, right? Zhang Weili looks like a person that you want to watch fight, but Rose Namajunas also has that same thing. And now you start to add in the words that Rose used to defend the situation that her family escaped from in regards to Zhang Weili, the bad blood that's going to come from that. Rose Namajunas and the way that she approaches her stare downs. This is the fight for me in terms of storyline. But when you look at skills, this fight has the potential to look like Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Because
if not better.
Savages, if not better.
Right.
Because Rose Namajunas is fantastic. And now she has that burning desire again to be the champion. Remember when she was the champion, she lost the belt. She was like, whatever.
Yeah.
It was
She
like
mentally
the
broken.
Gone,
Yeah.
right? The burden's gone. Now she's like, this. I know now after not having this anymore, how much I want this. And for Zhang Weili, she is the face of a nation, a fighting nation in terms of the first champion to break through from China. And we know what type of athletes they have in China. You see it in the Olympic Games. For decades, it was the United States, it was Russia at the top of the medal chart. Canada was somewhere down there with Jamaica.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just relax. Let me get to my point. Canada was back there, one gold medal, maybe a couple bronzes. It was the United States, it was Russia. Now it's the United States, it's China. And then you start to get to Russia and everybody else. So the China as a nation has exploded athletically. And Zhang Weili has broken through in this field of fighting. So it's massive, man, that she is the champion of the UFC.
Skill-wise, I don't know if there is a fighter when they are on that I enjoy watching more than Rose, especially her striking. Like her last two fights, and I know they were far apart, but the Andrade fights, those first rounds, when she is like humming out there, the footwork, the head movement, the jab, it is a beautiful thing. And then you couple that with Zhang, who I adore watching as well, and gave us a fight of the year the last time she fought in March of 2020. It's just a phenomenal matchup. I am very intrigued in Valentina versus Andrade. I want to see if Andrade can maybe try to build on some of the things that Jennifer Maia did. I think Andrade is a better fighter than Jennifer Maia. The whole thing is great. This Saturday, UFC 261, Jacksonville, VyStar Veteran Memorial Arena. We're back.
How about the UFC paying back VyStar, right? VyStar took a chance on him last May. Okay, they'll pay you back with a massive fight card. I can't.
Tachi Palace out there saying, when are we getting some love as well?
Tachi Palace, man, they should have just held the fight. If Tachi Palace would have held the fight, they would be getting this fight card.
All right. Of course, a lot going on. Dustin versus Connor, official for July 10th in Las Vegas. T-Mobile sold out in minutes. We found out Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira is going down. We found out that Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena are actually going to fight in September. But after this ad read, we do need to talk about Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. I know there are a lot of people sitting around waiting. When are they going to get to it? We're about to get to it, my friends. Stay right there. First, let me tell you about DraftKings. DraftKings, as you know, is an incredible partner in the sport of MMA and for the UFC. And as you know, UFC 261 is going down this Saturday. The 3 title fights, the Weidman fight, the Anthony Smith fight, all that and more. You can be a part of it all with DraftKings. The official daily fantasy partner of UFC is giving all players a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy MMA is easy to play. Just pick 6 fighters, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for advances, takedowns, and more. There's no better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at millions of dollars in prizes. So download the DraftKings app right now, and please use the promo code Ariel, that's ARIEL, to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes.
I don't even get upset anymore.
Throughout the week. Again, that's code Ariel, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Okay, maybe it does bother me a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
At some point, like, come on, man. Like, it's not that hard. TST's gone. I mean, I don't understand, man. You're just getting the people like, come on, dog.
They know what sell the units, what moves the units, as they say in the business. Okay, so Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Jake Paul against Funky Ben. Last week, you spoke to him. You broke through the camera. You spoke to your former Olympic teammate. You said, Ben, you're representing us. Show him what you got. Use your wrestling. Play a little dirty. Do your thing. Unfortunately, 159 of the first round.
Goodness.
A right hand from hell knocks him down. Jake Paul defeated Ben Askren. You were weighing in. Everyone was weighing in. It was the talk of the combat sports world. It was talk of the sports and entertainment world. Here we are 2 days removed. And I'm just going to ask a simple question, and it's a complex one. And I know you could go in a million different directions. How do you feel about what happened Saturday night as Jake Paul, the YouTuber, knocked out one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest American sportsmen of all
This is
time.
the problem with what happened last weekend, because all of those superlatives are true, right? Ben was one of the better wrestlers that we've had. He's one of the better United States. I mean, there are so many things to ONE FC champion, Bellator champion. There are so many things to describe Ben Askren. The one thing he isn't is a boxer, and we all knew that. But I mean, what a spectacle. I mean, what a spectacle on Saturday night. I mean,
which part? Are you talking about Ben's
the
physique?
whole entire
Are you talking
thing,
about
the whole thing, from Pete Davidson interviewing to the YouTube people, to the TikTok stars, to the drugs on TV, to the robot, to Justin Bieber singing, to all the concerts? It was a 10-hour pay-per-view. It was a 10-hour pay-per-view with all the concerts and everything included. But I mean, when you get to Frank Mir fighting against Steve Cunningham, Regis Prograis, I mean, they mixed a real boxing match in between all that. Between
which ended in controversy, by the way.
Which ended in controversy.
Yeah.
That dude, people want to talk about Aljamain Sterling. I mean, come on. This dude, this dude was acting. But they mixed in a real fight between these two fights. Let's get to Ben. First off, Snoop pops so hard when Ben comes out to Parliament. Gotta have the fun. Snoop pops, right? Snoop's the man. Poor Mario Lopez tried to keep everybody on task. At what point does Al Bernstein go, how in the world? At what point did Al Bernstein ask? When did he ask? When do you think Al asked, like, how in the world did I get here from where I was? Ben comes out. Paul comes out. They're standing. Ben, for the first time, looks nervous.
You thought so?
For the first time, Ben looks nervous. In the build-up to this whole thing, Ben never looked nervous. For the first time, he looks nervous. The kid goes out. The kid starts to jab Ben to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Ben square. Snoop says at one point, Ben has a 1940 style of fighting.
Yes. Hey, that's
Ben
not bad.
that 1940 style. You better mix it up. Ben lands a nasty overhand right. I'm like, okay, Ben, okay. But then Ben is like not pressing him at all. This kid then throws the jab to the body, overhand right, drops Ben bad. I was actually okay with the stoppage because Ben would have got like really knocked out bad if they would let him keep going. But
before you continue, can I just say,
no,
utterly ridiculous to claim that was rigged, right?
Bad. Ben got punched so bad. Dog.
There are so many angles of this thing. He got punched with a right hand and he fell down to when he gets up, he's like stammering. Like the idea, you know who are the people who claim fights are rigged? The people who have never been punched. And I know people will be like, Ariel, I've been punched enough to know, and I've been around you guys to know.
But Dahlia for sure punch you.
But come on, rigged? That dude is not falling like that if it's rigged. I'm sorry. No one's that good of an actor.
And Jake Paul's like 6'2". He's a big dude. He hit him hard, man. Happy with the stoppage. But let's get to this, right? Jake Paul is throwing one of the most basic combinations in all of boxing. He throws the jab to the body and he throws the overhand right. Right? He does it over and over again. I think he dropped Nate Robinson with it early in the fight. It's just a jab to the body. He starts hitting them to the body to try to get them to drop their hands. And he goes jab to the body, overhand right. And because these guys are so green in boxing, they get hit with this shot over and over again. A real boxer or a real competitor that have been at the highest levels and have boxed, Ben spent the vast majority of his time grappling, in fighting. Remember when he stood with Robbie Lawler, how bad Robbie Lawler beat the crap out of him? Mm-hmm. Robbie beat him to sleep and then woke him up by beating on Ben. Mm-hmm. Ben's just so tough that he doesn't quit on himself. Anyone that's seen boxing, anyone that spent time sparring hard boxing is not just getting flatlined with a jab to the body and overhand right. You've seen it too many times. You just kind of roll the shoulder. They try to reach. They always try to bring their hands down to block that punch, that jab. All you got to do is just turn a little bit to let the jab hit the elbow. You don't want to try to reach down to touch the jab because the overhand right's coming. So it's time to stop calling this kid a YouTuber, though, because the kid has the understanding and fundamentals of boxing. But are they high-level fundamentals? No. But he does understand. And if he continues to fight guys like this, he will continue to look as he's looked. But the moment he fights somebody that has a better understanding of boxing, of the sweet science, that combination isn't going to land as effectively. And even if it does, he's not going to just be putting these dudes out, because guys are going to start rolling with the punch. They're going to stop reacting so bad to the jab to the body. There's just a lot of different things you can do to that.
So I have so much to say about this. Number one, let me just say that the notion, I see a lot of people being like, I can't believe Ben was retired mentally and physically. Ben had hip surgery in August, 7 months ago. The guy was done. He didn't go out looking for this fight. And so when I hear people say this fight was rigged, when I hear people say it was fake and all that stuff, this fight was not rigged. That was a legitimate punch. That was a legitimate knockout. But you know what you can say, DC? You could say that it was rigged when they picked Ben Askren.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yes.
Jake Paul literally has every fighter / personality on the planet calling him out, right? He could pick anyone. They plucked the dude who was retired, who just had hip replacement surgery, who, oh, by the way, was never a good striker to begin with, and said, we want that guy. There's a reason they wanted that guy, because they knew that this was going to happen. And we knew that this was going to happen. Anyone that has seen Ben's career or knew the state of Ben's career knew that this was going to happen. And anyone who's being honest with themselves and knows that Jake has fundamental skills knows that he can actually beat up someone like this, or a Nate Robinson, or that other YouTube guy. So that's the only thing that was quote unquote rigged about any of this. They picked it. And guess what? We live in a world, DC, where MMA fighters sign with a promoter, whether it's the UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and in large part, the promoter tells them, here's your next assignment. This guy is his own promoter. So he is going to keep doing this. I see smart people saying, like, when are you going to fight a real? Why should he fight? He just did over 1 million pay-per-views. He's picking and choosing all this. The other brilliant thing that he is doing, DC, and this is not me like stumping for him or simping for him. This is telling it like it is and not getting so emotional like some of you crazies online. The other thing that he's doing that's brilliant is he's turned this into Jake Paul versus MMA. He is going after who's the first guy he called out? Nathan Diaz. Who's he calling out? You. He's saying, and we'll let you respond to that. But it's very smart, because why? The MMA fans get worked up. The fighters get worked up. The media covers him more than the boxing media. He has realized, oh, I could actually learn how to box better than these guys, and I can actually turn this into me versus MMA, and I'm going to make a boatload of money. So he is laughing all the way to the bank, and we are all feeding into it. But at the end of the day, let's break it down like this. This young man has skills, and he's a very good self-promoter. He knows exactly what he is doing, and it is working. And that's it. He picked a guy who couldn't fight anymore, who was done, who was broken. And unfortunately, oh, by the way, 20 pounds heavier, DC, than Ben usually fights. So that kind of probably gave him a chance to, take his foot off the gas. He was never really in tip-top shape. He's especially not in tip-top shape at 190 pounds. This was tailor-made for a beatdown like this. Now the big question is, where does he go from here? Guess what? He ain't doing much better than Ben Askren. I can assure you of that. Why should he? He's winning. He's making money. He's getting more famous. Why should he fight someone who is 20-0? He's not going to do it. There's no way. Stop believing it. Stop asking for it.
He won't. And Ben struggled. And you're right. The kid has fundamentals. He understands boxing, and he can continue to pick and choose. Look, man, this dude is he's smart in regards to how he's approaching this. Here's the thing. Here's where I spoke about it. I didn't like the way the guy was talking about Tyron Woodley.
So tell the people what happened. Tell the people what happened.
So Tyron was in there checking the gloves, right? Because that's what people do. In boxing, in mixed martial arts, your coach can go watch you wrap the hands. They can go check the gloves, especially in boxing. This guy starts talking to Tyron about, you don't know nothing about these gloves. But why? Tyron's just there to check out the gloves. Watch Jake get his hands wrapped. Tyron's a world champion. Tyron knows how to box. I understand this kid box, right? And this kid said, I'm signed to Al Heyman. But is he still signed to Al Heyman? Maybe he was, but he's lost fights. In boxing, you don't really get to lose 3 fights unless you're Manny Pacquiao, Juan Manuel Marquez, those types of guys. A guy named Jay Leon Love doesn't get to lose 3 fights and keep his contract. He doesn't have the value that would make people rush to still watch him fight once he started losing. But the way he was talking to Tyron, as if Tyron wasn't on his level, was very upsetting. So that's what I said, right? So then them dudes come at me. But the reality is this, and I learned this from from a lot of people that I spend time with you, per se. There's a guy calling you out constantly, but you never respond to him. I'm not going to do that because you don't punch down. I'm not going to punch down and fight a guy that's on YouTube. It's stupid. I fought for world titles my whole life. Why would you start to punch down at a guy that's trying to, I don't even know. This dude would never fight me. I would kill him. It's like, why would I ever fight someone like that? But my immediate reaction was, I can't stand this kid. You know what I'm saying? So like, it works. It's like, I can't stand this kid. But who punches down? You don't punch down to somebody. You know, I'm the guy that's in the Hall of Fame. I'm the guy that won 2 world championships at the same time. I'm not going to punch down to some kid on YouTube that's like, fight me. Like, why? What have you done to earn the right to fight me? So, no, it's silly and stupid. But I would like him to fight Tyron. I would like to see him fight somebody more real. Don't fight Ben Askren at 190 bloated. Fight a middleweight. Fight Luke Rockhold. Fight Luke Rockhold. Let me see you fight Luke Rockhold or somebody like that. And then I will not only say that you have base skills, I will say you're a real fighter. Because right now it's all pretend. It's all pretend.
So here's the thing. There's like this, there's this buzzword in society these days where people like to say, this industry, this company, this platform, they are disruptors, right? We are disrupting, right? Jake Paul is disrupting the boxing business. He's disrupting the combat sports business. And no different, you know, I don't think anyone with a brain and who understands fighting is silly enough to compare him to Terrence Crawford, to compare him to Canelo, to compare him to Errol Spence, to compare him to Tyson Fury. No one is saying this. No one is saying this. By giving him props as a 3-0 boxer with no amateur history or anything like that is not saying that he's on the level of these guys, but he is going through a training camp. He knows how to throw a 1-2. He knows how to.
Hey, he's also got money. So he doesn't, the dude has made a lot of money doing what he does. So he can just train. He doesn't have to worry about anything outside of training. He can hire nutritionists. He can get the best coaches. He can get all those things that we can get as world champion.
And there's a lot of jealousy out there. And a lot of MMA fighters are jealous because they're like, look at the money, look at the fame, look at the notoriety, look at all this stuff. And I'm here, you know, struggling to make 10 and 10. So I get why people are upset and why they're all forming a queue to fight this guy. What I wanted to say was, when you call him a boxer, when you say that he's a boxer, you're not demeaning boxers or boxing. It's the same way as saying like, oh, Ninja is a broadcaster because he goes out and puts himself on YouTube and makes a boatload of money. But I'm not saying he's on the level of freaking, you know, Dan Rather. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But this is the world that we live in. People who have social media followings, people who are connecting with young kids are out there getting famous and making money. So, hey, more props to you. Do your thing. To me, the more interesting thing is, all right, he's clearly successful. This is working. There's an appetite. I get more people hitting me up about this than I do any MMA fight. All weekend long, people are asking me who's going to win. Now the question is, where does he go? Does he continue to fight these guys? Or does he fight, you know, the one I threw out yesterday, I don't know how much you know of him, Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is Tyson's younger brother. He's only 5-0. He's 21, 22. He's a reality show star. He became famous on a reality show, but he's got a look, a physique. He's got a social media following. To me, that would be fun. But again, Jake's looking for he's looking for BJ Penn. He's looking.
All those guys that are calling out Jake Paul, don't be surprised if it's BJ Penn, Phil Baroni, Mike Perry, if he wasn't in the UFC.
He's doing this. He's doing this.
One of those guys. That's why for me, like, I was kind of like, wow, I was like, oh, this guy wants to fight me? Like, that's crazy. But at the end of the day, he said he wanted to fight Michael Bisping too. He was never going to fight Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping is going to beat Jake Paul if they fight. There's no way he beats a Michael Bisping. So it'll be one of those guys like BJ Penn. And I don't even want it to be like I'm crapping on the kid. I'm not crapping on the kid. The kid did something good last week and he knocked out Ben. He put on that show himself. But to come at a guy like me is crazy.
No. It's absolutely crazy. But look what he's doing. He's trying. He is punching up. You don't want to punch down. I get it. That's what he's doing. He's going for the big names. He is punching up. My main point is people.
Calling out Conor McGregor. Conor's small. He's calling out Conor. Conor's tiny. Nate's small. Why are you calling out these dudes at 170 pounders? If Nate is to fight him and Nate gets big to 190, That's not Nate Diaz at his best. Conor at 180 pounds is not going to be Conor at his best. He needs to be fighting a middleweight.
Well, I think those guys beat him, even if they meet. Even, you know, I think Ben made a mistake by weighing in at 190. He should have just weighed in at 170. I think Conor weighing in at 170, him weighing in at 185, 190, he'll still beat him. But this isn't going away.
But he's big, though. He's 6'2". Conor's not. Conor's too small. Nate, they're too short. He wants those guys that he can just kind of pick apart from the outside. I think he should fight middleweights. Why not let him fight Luke Rockhold? But
isn't it amazing that we're talking MMA fighters this whole time? We're not, and I know we're not as big into boxing, but I'm just saying, like, this model that he has figured out, and people get confused. They think
because for me, I want an MMA fighter to go get him.
I know. Well, this is what I'm saying. It's become MMA versus this guy, right? He's done it.
He created this, but for us that love the sport, we're like, no. If Ben was the first guy to go represent us as a sport, we need to send somebody real now to get him. We need to send somebody real. We need to, as Dana, when I see Dana this weekend, I'll be like, hey, man, let's send a guy over there. Let's send somebody real.
And it will make a boatload of money. It will do better than any pay-per-view out there because he has been able to connect with people.
Let's go get somebody. Let's send somebody real out there for this dude.
But guess what?
It don't even have to be Paulo Costa or one of the dudes that are in the top 5. Let's just send him somebody on the fringe of the top 20 and see how real he is.
You know what's the most amazing thing about this, DC? This blueprint, this playbook has been played before. Everyone tuned in towards the end of Mayweather's career to try and see him lose. Now, Mayweather obviously way more accomplished, but he has turned himself into the ultimate bad boy, the ultimate heel, and everyone is watching to see him get his ass whooped. And he is picking opponents because he's able to do it to quote unquote rig the fight. And so it's an amazing thing to watch unfold. People get so DC. I got more hate on Saturday for even talking about this fight. People are like, oh, you're not what this is as someone who adores combat sports. I'm not looking at this emotionally like everyone else. It's a fascinating thing to watch unfold. And I do think there are lessons to be learned from a lot of other promoters as well, to see this kid emerge, take the training seriously, but then also pick and choose and pluck these people who have no business. And oh, by the way, let me just say one last thing if I can, because I feel like I could talk about this for 45 minutes. One last thing. You can't claim that he is not a boxer and then claim that he is going to get someone hurt by picking these guys. It's one or the other.
The kid's a boxer. He's not just a YouTube guy anymore.
Right.
He knows how to box enough to beat the guys that he's fighting. But he's no Errol Spence. He's no T-Bud. He's no Canelo. He's none of those dudes. He's not Javante Davis. He's not Ryan Garcia. He's none of those dudes. He's none of the best. But he does have enough skill to beat certain guys in the world. And if you're not careful, you'll be looking at a Jake Paul that's 5-6-0, claiming to be the pound best fighter in the world.
It's coming.
And then he'll never fight anyone to prove him wrong. So I think we need to stop this soon before this dude gets too much momentum going.
Well, just let the record show I came to your defense. I clap back as I have continuously.
Always.
I mean, you don't for me, but it's okay. I will protect you until the end. And I told them, the tone needs to come. We're at a 10 right now. I know you're feeling yourself, but we need to come down.
Put some respect on my name, son. What is going on?
Crazy. So hopefully we'll be talking to Ben soon and getting a sense. And one thing about Ben, he handles these situations very, very well. I know people were upset that he was smiling afterwards.
Ben, man. I love Ben. He's my boy. Ben puts himself in some situations that not many people would. There's a lot of value in Ben Askren's name. I just don't want people to continue to try to take advantage of that because he's such a competitor. He thinks he can win in anything. But I think now it's time for Ben to sit back and really, honor the value and all the work that he's put in and not allowing people to use him as a stepping stone because he went out there and got teched by Jordan Burroughs in less than a minute. He didn't need to do that. He went out there and got beat up by this Jake Paul. He didn't need to do that, so there's a lot of value in Ben's name. Let's not let people use his name to uplift themselves.
Amen. 2-time Dan Hodge trophy winner, Olympian, Missouri legend, won championship, legend, Bellator legend. So people forget, but I think in the MMA world, his legacy is still very much intact. All right, we're out of time, DC. We're out of time. Oh,
hey, real quick before we go, congrats on your Knicks. That was awesome. I mean, they are rocking and rolling right now.
Very nice of you. 6 in a row.
As we're living in the garbage can. You guys are well on your way to making the playoffs.
Didn't want to bring it up.
Congratulations, my man. It's time to put Julius Randle, in the conversation. You told me a couple days ago, Tom Thibodeau is the coach of the year. And for the first time in a long time, those are real facts about the New York Knicks. So
that's very nice.
Hats off to you in Knicks Nation.
It's very nice. Vegas had them listed as a 22.5 for wins before the season. I went out there and predicted over 30, and we're 14 games left in the schedule. So listen, a lot of people like to say, Ariel, stick to what you know. Guess what? I know a thing or two about round ball. You know what I'm saying? I know a thing or two about hoops, my man. I know a thing or two about hoops. All right. I don't want Corporate Jake's head to explode. They've been trying to wrap us for the last 3 minutes here. So without further ado, we shall say goodbye. Thank you to our sponsors. DC, enjoy the Hall of Fame, my man. I wish I could be there. There's nothing I would rather do tomorrow than attend this event. Unfortunately, the invitation never came in the mail. So I'm sitting at home like I've missed everything over the past year. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy UFC 261. We'll talk to you back next week, same time and place. Until then, we say peace. We're out of here.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.